Okay, see Lindelof videos. Solve and graphing inequalities. So I'm going to do some basic types of this, not a bunch of examples, but what would be terrific is if you would copy down the problem, pause the video, work on it, hit play again, and do these for the next 4 problems and see if you can get the same answers I got. I haven't done these problems yet, so if I make any mistakes, please let me know. Let's try this. This first example is 0 is greater than, right? Is greater than 3x minus 3 minus 9. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to gather like terms. So these are just numbers here, right? They don't have any variable values, right? They're just numbers. So we have negative 3 minus 6, which I believe is negative 9, right? I'm just going to bring down my 3x, because I haven't done anything with it yet. I'm going to bring all the rest of this down. So now I have 0 is greater than 3x minus 9. I'm going to just keep solving as if this was a regular equation, right? 0 plus 9 is 9. So 9 is greater than 3x. Divide both sides by 3. Divide both sides by 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3. 3 is greater than x. So this answer is in perfect form. It's fine. However, if you want to make it easier to graph, remember that this is true reflexively, which means we can flip this over. So remember, if you look at this for a second, the inequality is pointing to the x. So all I'm going to do is rewrite the inequality. So here's my x. Remember that the inequality was pointing towards the x. And then here's the 3. So if you looked at this in a mirror, it would look the same, wouldn't it? So we have x is less than 3. When you do this, what you do is you make it so you can actually graph this more easily. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pick some value here, and I'm going to say that that's 3. The arrow is pointing to the left, right? This arrow right here is this arrow, and it's telling me which way to go. So I'm going to go to the left. If you have your solution set up like this one. So I'm going to circle this answer, and I'm going to go to the left, right? Now the question is, or the thing to know is that if you have an inequality that does not involve an equal sign, then we do not shade. It's called open notation, so we're going to leave this open, right? So here's our solution, and here's the graph of our response right here. All right, let's move on to the next one. So here, this is also a relatively basic problem, I think. Here, we're going to gather like terms. We have all the variables on the left-hand side. We're just going to combine them and then do our math. What I do want you to notice is here, we have a less than or equal sign. This is less than or equal sign, and that helps us make a decision about how we're going to graph this. So let's do our little bit of algebra here first. So we're going to combine these two like terms. So 2p's minus 4p's is negative 2p's, isn't it? Is less than or equal to negative 2, right? So two weird things are going to happen here. So let's do it the first one first, and that is that we're going to divide both sides by negative 2. And I want you to make a note to yourself that anytime that you multiply or divide, that's it, multiply or divide an inequality by a negative number, the inequality switches. So I'm going to go do my little bit of math here. So negative 2 over negative 2 is 1. So 1 times p is p. We had this as less than or equal to. Now it's going to be greater than or equal to. And I'm going to finish our math, and negative 2 over negative 2 is 1. All right? So here we are. We're on our last little piece here. So here's where we're going to graph our solution. I'm going to take a value. I'm going to call that value 1, because that's the value we're looking for is 1. I'm going to circle it. I am going to follow the arrow. So this arrow says that we go to the right, so I'm going to follow this arrow. So I'm going to go this way. So here's what's really, really significant, is that when you have an equal sign included in your inequality, see this is an equal sign down here. When you have an equal sign, that tells us that we need to shade in our solution. So shade, whoa, shade. Right? So here I am shading in the solution, right? So when we have less than or greater than with no equal sign, we don't shade. But when we have an equal sign involved in our inequality, we're going to shade our answer. Next question that always comes up is, how come you flip at the inequality sign? So what I'd like to challenge you to do is come up with an inequality that you think is true. I'm going to use one like, I think that 5 is greater than 2. Come up with your own, however you want to do it. So 5 is greater than 2. But if I if I just do a little bit of math to it, if I multiply the whole thing by, I'm using -1 to make it easy, but by a negative number, then I get -5 is greater than -2. Is that true? So that's not true. So that's the explanation. What's happening is you're moving to the other side of the number line. So that's why we flip the inequality over. All right? Let's move on to, we're almost done. So let's move on to this one. This problem has a lot going on. So we have a negative sign, and then we have this quantity, k minus 3 plus 2. Remember, when you see this quantity sign, these parentheses, anything in front of it is being multiplied by it. So you see this negative sign. This negative sign is equivalent to -1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute completely through this. I'm going to do -1 times k, and then I'm going to go back and do -1 times -3. So -1 times k is -k. -1 times -3 is +3 plus 2, right? So far so good. And then I haven't done anything with this. I'm just going to bring this down. 7 is less than all that stuff. I'm going to combine like terms. 3 plus 2 is 5. Right? And it's a +5. Here's our -k right here. Just bringing my work down is all I'm doing. I'm going to continue to solve. Say, okay, I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. Subtract 5 from both sides. 7 minus 5 is 2. 2 is less than -k, otherwise known sometimes as opposite k. So remember, again, when you see just a negative sign in front of a variable, that value is actually a -1. So I'm going to divide both sides by -1. Guess what I just divided by? So I'm going to do something. I divided by a negative number. So what am I going to have to do with this inequality? I'm going to take this inequality and I'm going to flip it. So here's k. I'm going to flip this over again just so I can graph it more easily. And I get k is less than 2 is my solution. I'm going to go ahead and graph it. I'm going to say, for argument's sake, this is 2 right here. I'm going to circle it. I'm going to follow the arrow. The arrow suggests that I go to the left, so I am going to go to the left, right? There is no, check this out, right? There is no equal sign under this. Therefore, I leave this in open notation. Open notation. When you shade it, it's called closed notation. If you leave it open, it's called open notation. So those are the most common types of inequalities that you're going to see. So hopefully you're going to practice these. If you have questions or comments, please let me know. And if you haven't already subscribed, please do. I appreciate it. Peace.